Well, hello to my wonderful subscribers. In efforts to demystify astrology and thinking of the planets as chakras for a larger system that we are a part of, and thinking about how clever we are with our spirit teams, angels and guides and ancestors. Before we come here, we choose exactly, very particularly, when we want to enter and where, for our soul's growth, for things we want to learn and teach, for vibrations we want to fine-tune, for energies we want to bring in, for healing, for love. That's the ultimate goal. And that I find really interesting. And this chapter is about Venus and the 7 rays. This is for spiritual and entertainment purposes only. And I am deeply spiritual but not religious. So, with that in mind, let's begin. From ancient times, occult tradition has implied a special link between the planet Venus and the Earth, and has asserted that the original God-men came to Earth from Venus to guide and help humanity, bringing the teachings of the Brotherhood of the Christ Star. The great world teachers who appear from time to time are messengers from this planet, and all teach and demonstrate in their lives the same law of love and brotherhood. In some instances, they are said to have returned to Venus in spacecraft. Well, that's very interesting. Venus is closer to the sun than is the Earth, and because she is seen at her brightest around dawn and sunset, she is known both as the morning and evening star. I will interject something wonderful here that was recently come to all of our attention at the last full moon, the strawberry moon. At that time, 6 houses of the zodiac are now under new rulership. This is unprecedented in our time and a very exciting time to be here. So with that, wonderful, that sort of, think of that as like a smart key, where the key needs the new information integrated, the new light codes brought in, integrated through inner work and acceptance. And then we become like those new smart keys, able to access more from the ethers, and also because being here in a physical body is a gift. It is a sacred gift to be here. So, back to the book. The Sun, Moon, and Mercury are known astrologically as neutral planets, because although each has its own special function in the life of the soul, its influence is largely colored and modified by the planet with which it's most closely linked, through sign position and planetary aspect. These 3 represent the threefold structure of man: the Sun, the spirit; the Moon, the astral and physical vehicles of the personality; and Mercury, the mental vehicle which directs each planetary ray into creative activity. The rays of the other planets play on these 3 to develop and mature them, so that man unfolds all the subtler vehicles he needs for the full and perfect expression of his spirit. It is interesting that the first 6 signs are under the rulership of planets connected with the first 3 rays: the Sun, Moon, and Mercury, and the planets of their exaltation: Mars, Venus. Mercury, of course, is exalted in its own sign of Virgo. As previously mentioned, the first and second rays stand on their own as representing the father-mother principles throughout the life. From the third ray, represented by Mercury, exalted in Virgo, all the other 4 rays derive. For until there is some development of mind and thought power, as opposed to the instinctual animal reactions, the true human consciousness cannot develop and mature towards divinity. I'm going to interject something here. The animals that are here on this planet, I believe, are of higher nature than we are, in the sense that they know their purpose and they fulfill their purpose every day. And they have come here to assist Mother Earth and us. They bring their own special medicines and bring them into play, because the highest expression of a compliment to Earth is to be loving and in play at the same time. It creates joy and wonder. It creates curiosity. And that's part of our coding, our special, to be that smart key, that special key. We need to have that as well. A sense of play. And I often need reminded of that because I tend to be too serious. So back to the book. The influence of Venus in this development is profound and beautiful. Being concerned with the perfecting of love, the creative principle throughout life, she is the planet of unity, harmony, and beauty. Through her fixed earth sign Taurus, she is closely linked with money, possessions, comfort, and security. And through her cardinal air sign Libra, the seventh sign of the zodiac, she rules love, marriage, and partnership of all kinds. She is concerned with all forms of art and those cultural pursuits associated with the higher mental planes of being. Saturn, the polar opposite of the Sun and Moon, is exalted in Libra, and his influence is destined in time to bring to the soul perfect balance of body, soul, and spirit. The exaltation of Saturn in Libra is perhaps the epitome of the fourth ray, of harmony and beauty, and Venus has much to do with this ray as well as with the second and the sixth. The word symmetry perhaps describes more clearly than any the basic quality of the fourth ray in life. This symmetry is best symbolized in a six-pointed star, the interlaced equilateral triangles of which represent the complex expression of God in man and man in God. I never thought of it that way. We always think of it as like the complete expression of Creator in man, but I never think of man in Creator. That's that oneness that I'm trying to figure out. So there's a clue. Okay. Making a note of that. The same symmetry is expressed in countless ways in nature and in life. All beauty of physical form is dependent upon balance and proportion. Beauty of verbal expression is dependent upon rhythm, which is another form of symmetry. While beauty of character is expressed in the ability to balance and moderate the warring elements within the soul. The idea of Creator as the grand geometrician of the universe is a typical conception of a child of the fourth ray, worshiping the beauty of the spirit and its expression in material form. Children of each ray love beauty in a different form, which may be expressed in music, literature, or art. But beauty is not for them the ultimate goal of existence, as it is for the child of the fourth ray, who worships the ideal of heavenly, eternal beauty even more than its expression in physical form. What we think we become, and gradually such a soul becomes so steeped in the idea of perfect beauty that this is unconsciously expressed in every action and movement. And the more evolved the soul, the more its own strength and will creates beauty and perfection in its environment. In Greek legend, Venus is pictured as being born from the sea, which to an astrologer signifies her exaltation in Pisces, the sign of the sea. Jupiter, ruler of Pisces, is exalted in the moon sign of Cancer, the crab, which lives in the sea. And the moon herself is exalted in Venus's sign of Taurus. These three planets, Venus, Jupiter, and the moon, so closely linked one with the other, are concerned with creation of all the different bodies through which the spirit, the flame of Creator, can manifest. All three are associated with the molding of matter into varied and ever-evolving forms, through which life, the light, can shine. This matter may be purely physical or it may be of the subtler planes, vibrating at a quicker rate, but nevertheless still matter, which has to be molded through the power of creative thought. Venus, then, is concerned with that wonderful creative power of the Divine Mother. And souls born strongly under Venus's influence are working on the love-wisdom ray of the Divine Mother. Their specialized task being the creation of beauty and harmony in every department of life. In the lunar ray itself, there is always duality, always the light and dark of the moon. While the moon is exalted in the beautiful Venetian sign of Taurus, she has her fall in the Martian sign of Scorpio. Scorpio draws the soul right into the practical issues of the physical plane and the fight for physical existence, while the beauty of Venus draws it upwards towards the harmony and peace of the heaven world. Always the soul in incarnation is pulled between these two extremes, a conflict which continues in different ways throughout every incarnation until the soul has learned the secret of balance. The soul is not intended to escape from the physical life, but to master it by the power of creative thought. Taurus rules the throat, and from the throat comes forth the sound, the word, which creates. All who have been raised to the heights by music or had their nerves shattered by discordant noise will understand that sound has a mysterious power over matter. The vibration of certain notes can shatter a glass, and the rhythmic beat of a company of soldiers marching over a bridge could, in certain conditions, destroy it. Knowledge of how sound can be used to build and create form is yet to be developed in our present cycle, but the builders of the pyramids and of Stonehenge and other sun temples had this knowledge and used it to perform apparently miraculous feats of engineering. I'm going to interject an opinion here. When I read that, knowledge of how sound can be used to build and create form is yet to be developed in our present cycle, but the builders of the pyramids and of Stonehenge and other sun temples had this knowledge. Well, there's a clue to put in our pocket. Much more to be known given the book that we read last before this one. Putting these pieces together along with prophecies and stories we have heard and words that will come up and that you'll hear, like if you hear something mentioned 3 times in a few days, pay attention because that's a clue for you. That doesn't mean you need to run around and tell everybody that that's their clue, but it's definitely the clue for you. And that curiosity and wonderment and childlike, that's the magic. That's what makes the magic key work, is curiosity and that childlike ability to have that and to wonder with groundedness and protected, but with an open heart and an open mind and a willingness to this idea I've carried around for 40 years, I might need to rethink that. And that can be a little scary at first, and discombobulation will follow, but there's also a great freedom in that. There's fantastic freedom in that. When your childlike self is curious, follow it. Safely, but follow it. In your inner world, it will lead you to your next clue. And you may need to do some healing, but don't be afraid. It happens like water going through a screen. It is effortless. You don't get extra points for suffering, so don't even think about that. Things are happening much more quickly now and more gently in some ways. If you're doing your inner work, you know this. So, that was just a quick reminder. Back to the book. Both Mars and Venus work through the emotional life of man. Whenever these two are prominent in the horoscope or in the progressions, the feelings and emotions are easily stirred, and the life or period of life under review will be filled with deep emotional experience. Now, the emotions are connected with the astral plane, with the development of the astral body, and are symbolized by the water element, by the sea. We all feel the mighty power of the sea and respond to its deep, incessant music. From the sea of the emotions, from the hidden emotional power within man, all his creativity springs. Therefore, it is not surprising to find both Mars and Venus emphasized in the horoscopes of all creative artists. Mars is not often recognized as a bringer of beauty, yet without his creative drive on the physical plane, the soul's response to the beauty which Venus creates in the higher spheres could not find physical expression. People strongly influenced by Venus but lacking the energy of the Martian ray find it difficult to give practical expression to their ideas. They tend to dabble in artistic occupations, to dream and to drift, indulging their love of pleasure and gracious living. Yet they often gladly supply the money which enables creative artists to live while giving form to their thoughts and inspirations. The disciplinary power of Saturn is also needed for the perfect expression of beauty. Creative artists in any sphere need to work long and diligently to perfect their technique and discipline their creative exuberance. At the physical level, people on the Venetian ray will always be in some way connected with the creation of beauty, harmony, comfort, and pleasure in life. They will be concerned with the practical issues of security and ease which the wise management of finance and property can bring. Or they follow occupations such as fashion, beauty culture, making and selling jewelry, interior decoration, landscape gardening, as well as banking, finance, or estate management. At the mental level, they may be creative artists concerned with all cultural pursuits which raise the mind above mundane matters and beautify life. At the emotional level, they will be comforters, harmonizers, and peacemakers. Venus people are not fighters. They long for a placid and harmonious existence and will do almost anything to keep out of trouble and conflict. This is especially true of those born under Libra, sign of the scales. In this sign, the Venetian ray of harmony manifests particularly through mental activity, giving good reasoning power and intuitively clear perception. Yet people with Venus, Libra, or the 7th house emphasized in their charts will often find themselves in the center of conflict, struggling to keep the peace between two strong personalities. They see both sides of the question and often are fond of both protagonists, and through this conflict suffer nervous and emotional exhaustion. Libra is often prominent in the horoscopes of statesmen, military commanders, and people who hold a position of power and responsibility, which calls for diplomacy and the ability not only to sense public reaction, but also foresee how the minds of their opponents will work. In such cases, Saturn, too, is especially emphasized and gives the necessary strength and steadiness. Souls on the ray of Venus are learning to walk the razor edge, the middle path of balance and harmony. They have to learn to find the center of light and creative power within their own being, and having found it, to be absolutely true to that light. True loyalty is not always easy for them. They need to be pleasant and charming and satisfy everyone. All they really want for themselves is peace and comfort of either body or soul. To gain this, they are sometimes tempted to evade the issue and not to make the firm decision which in their innermost hearts they know to be right. As Venus has such a close connection with the sea, it is hardly surprising that the real tests for those on the Venetian ray are those of the emotions, the tests of the water element. Often the Venetian is storm-tossed and almost submerged under emotional conflict, but all these experiences are to call forth and test the inner strength. the power inherent in every soul to control the elements, to still the waves of emotion. When the boat was threatened by a great storm, Jesus commanded, "Peace, be still," and the winds and waves obeyed him. So when the soul in the Venetian ray can find the place of silence at the center of his or her own being, they will learn how to call upon that creative power. And that will instill all conflict and work like magic on all the warring elements in herself or himself and their environment. The soul, exhausted and torn by emotional suffering, seeks comfort and reassurance by turning to Creator in religion. It begins to feel a longing, an aspiration towards Creator which nothing else can assuage. They begin to realize that only the unfailing love of the Almighty, Eternal Spirit, can bring it to that deep peace and consolation for which it longs. This longing for Creator, giving the soul an almost passionate desire to serve and to worship, is a quality of the sixth ray of unfoldment, which White Eagle calls the indigo ray, although some assign it to the colors rose or gold. As previously stated, the colors seem to vary according to the particular plane of consciousness, and it's best perhaps to not feel too tied to any one color or any particular ray. The sixth ray is usually allotted to Jupiter, planet of religion and philosophy, which strengthens and stimulates the higher mental faculties. But essentially, this is a love-wisdom ray, closely allied to the second, and is perhaps best epitomized by Venus, exalted in Jupiter's water sign Pisces. Venus is the planet of human love and marriage, and when human love fails, as so often happens to children of this ray, the soul is drawn to Creator for comfort and consolation, and begins to understand the meaning of the mystical marriage of the soul with Christ. The search for that ultimate union of the soul with Creator is long and arduous. It is described in myth and fairy tale, in the religious drama of every race. John Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress gives an extraordinarily true and vivid picture of the soul's experiences on this quest. This path towards inner light is inevitably fraught with many tests, temptations, and obstacles, and every soul needs a wise teacher at this stage of development and unfoldment. Yet such is the perfection of divine law that as a soul becomes ready to begin its quest, it is always led to the right teacher. Often, by a series of apparent coincidences, the seeker will be led to one who can set his feet on the path. There is a strong tendency in children of this sixth ray to attach themselves to some personality whose wisdom, love, and spiritual power seems to be almost godlike. The tendency of souls on this ray to become attached to the outer form or personality of a teacher is interesting in view of the tendency of the devotees of all great religions to materialize in the course of time their conception of eternal light. But in time, the mystical meaning of this term, together with recognition of the difference between the personality and the universal cosmos, they figure that out. A most important stage in the spiritual unfoldment of a soul on this ray comes when it has to realize the true relationship between the personality of the beloved teacher and the light of the ages, which is universal and shines through all and all religions. This is a testing time, which this came to the disciples of Jesus when he withdrew from their midst. At some stage in the life of every soul evolving along this sixth ray, the teacher guru, whose personality has meant everything, has withdrawn. The soul may discover that its idol has feet of clay, and it passes through a period of dissolution and heartbreak until a wider understanding opens and the soul sees beyond the personality to the eternal and universal light which shines through it. This knowledge often breaks suddenly in a moment of illumination and ecstasy which changes the whole life, and the soul is left with a wonderful peace and trust in the universal love. Once this test is passed, the child of the sixth ray enters into the universal brotherhood of truth. His or her life is devoted no longer to the service of one person, but to the light, which he recognizes as the beloved. He experiences exactly the same devotion, exactly the same need for brotherhood and companionship, but instead of being bound to one sect or creed, he can worship devoutly at every altar, wherever men gather to serve. Nevertheless, he will feel a special need to serve in company with those who have gained a similar vision of universal light, and will meet with them for deeper study and service into the inner planes of being. Souls who in this day of life are drawn to secret brotherhoods and whose lives are devoted to service on inner planes are frequently those who have made some progress along the sixth ray. Interjecting, of course, that all those secrets, this is the year of no more secrets. So, and 6 houses are now under new rulership, so we are literally flying by the seat of our pants, and I could not be more thrilled. Back to the book. The divine love which they are beginning to feel in their hearts gives them a deep desire to serve and heal their fellows in no matter what humble capacity. And many of these souls find joy in the unfolding of spiritual healing. Their utter devotion and reverence for the beloved shines through the whole personality and produces in the more advanced children of this ray a most gentle and saint-like character. Like the gold ray, it stimulates the heart center, which, when opened, radiates divine grace, itself a healing power. Those sensitive to the aura of such a soul are so filled with peace and confidence in divine love that they cannot but receive healing and blessing. Devotion, which is given with understanding to the universal Father, Mother, Creator, to the living Christ, produces in a devotee a state of happiness and bliss such as was experienced by saints. Holy cow. Children of this ray are likely to have formally incarnated in India, in China, or Tibet, and also in Persia. And I apologize if anyone was offended by me saying, holy cow, I'm sorry. I will change that to what I usually say, which is, holy smoly. Okay. Since the Master Jesus is closely connected with the ray, it is likely that many will have been in incarnation at the time of his ministry or that of the early Christian fathers and brotherhoods. Through succeeding centuries, they will probably have been followers of the more mystical interpretation of Christianity given by inner brotherhoods such as the Albigenses and the early Rosicrucians and the Masons. I don't think I said that right. Rosicrucians. Not sure what that is. I've heard of it, but I don't think I'm saying it right. Anyway, secret brotherhoods. Masons, that one I recognize. In even more ancient times, though, they will have been connected with the centers of pure sun worship, such as found in the British Isles and on the continent of Europe, in Egypt, Mexico, and Peru. Whenever and wherever the light is worshipped, there will be found children of the sixth ray striving to become perfect channels for that light. A familiar symbol of ancient brotherhood is that of the rose at the center of the cross, a symbol which shows how divine love arising in the heart transmutes suffering into heavenly joy. Is it not significant that rose is the flower of Venus? Actually, the moon, Jupiter, and Venus all rule roses of different colors, and each is linked with the divine mother principle. The symbol of the rose and the cross is similar to some ways to the catechus of Mercury, that magic rod, cicadas of Mercury. I think it's the doctor symbol. That magic rod with power to reconcile conflicting elements. I honestly have no clue. The angels of both Mercury and Venus work together at a level far beyond the everyday consciousness, using man's higher or subliminal mind to create beauty. I will interject. This is why I named our lovely, lovely fur baby our dog Rosie, because one look in her eyes, when I met her, she was underweight by a couple of pounds. She had been found scared and running. She was brought over mountains because I had asked our dog before to help us find a new friend, and it took about 1.5 years, a little bit more than that. And when I looked into her eyes, I immediately thought, the rose is blooming on her heart, because I could see it. So that's why I named her Rosie. The connection of Venus with the sea of universal consciousness calls to mind the ancient legend of Uranus, the man-fish, who came by day to instruct mankind in all arts necessary. Oh, wow, I'm going to interject something. Remember the book that I read before? None of this is true, but it's exactly what happened. Do you catch the reference there of the man-fish and the star beings who first came? This is so wonderful. There are so many clues. When we become curious, there are clues everywhere. It's really fun to find them. This is interesting in view of the tradition that humanity was originally taught by the god-men of Venus. Interesting also in the view of the Christian use of fish as a symbol for Jesus. It is said that a life exists on Venus far more perfect and beautiful than anything which man on earth today can conceive. On Venus there is perfect harmony and unity between souls, and everyone dwells with his or her twin half. There is no sadness of separation, and death of the physical vehicle has been overcome, for these people all have the power over matter through their own creative thought. This is the life towards which Earth's humanity is progressing. The Brotherhood on Venus are deeply concerned with the welfare of their sister planet, the Earth. They watch over the development of Earth's mankind with great love, and from time to time send messengers, great world leaders, to help, teach, and guide humanity. All who are working on the ray of Venus have a special mission. The spiritually awakened, responding to the love and inspiration of the Venetian Brotherhood, can bring to humanity some ray of beauty and inspiration, some practical service which will comfort and uplift mankind. So, holy shamoly, that's a heck of a lot of news right in there. It pays to be curious, you know. Have a sense of wonderment and hug yourself a little bit, because you chose so wisely. Whatever sign you are, we will cover it. But each of these planets was a doorway chosen for its specific opportunities and gifts and challenges, so that you could accomplish what you came here to do. And it's what you are here for. Is it may have things in common with other people, but your uniqueness is what makes you that smart magic key. So being authentically you and standing in your beautiful light is imperative. So I thank you so much for stopping by.